Up next, we have something very special. We have a fabric crankie and story. The art is made by Mary Milne, and the story will be told by Reggie Carpenter, and it is called The Kingdom Under the Sea.
The following story of a time warp in a magical kingdom under the sea has sat in a corner of my mind since childhood. It dates back to 8th century Japan. By Western standards, it does not have a happy ending, but speaks to loss. That is an essential part of human experience. Stories are important. Stories are essential. Perhaps this one has endured so long as an imaginative way for traditional Japanese fishing culture to cope with loss of life on the seas. Stories fill the gap of not knowing. I wonder what's down there under the sea. I dedicate this show to the memory of Tom Hilchey, a young man, my neighbor, who was whisked too soon from this earth. Tom loved turtles, as many of us do. Merged with this slow, powerful animal, symbol of our Mother Earth, Tom's spirit will always remain in our hearts, where he continues to remind us to live well.
Once upon a time, in a small village by the sea, there lived a fisherman named Urashima. One day, as Urashima was going down to the water, he saw a small turtle struggling on its back. He gently scooped the turtle up and righted it, and saw that its shell was the most dazzling colors of blue and green. He gently released the turtle into the water, and as it swam away, he called out after it, "May you live 1,000 years." The next day, as Urashima was out fishing in his boat, he cast his net into the water. A giant sea turtle swam up beside him and spoke. "Thank you for saving that little turtle yesterday. My master, the sea god, wishes to thank you also and invite you to come down to the kingdom under the sea. Would you like to go?" "Well, wouldn't you?" Urashima jumped out of his boat and onto the back of the turtle with a great splash. And together they went down, down, and further down still, into the deepest part of the water, until they were at the very bottom of the ocean. Urashima stood in amazement. He had arrived at the dragon palace of the sea. It was so beautiful. But the most beautiful thing was the princess. "Urashima, welcome," she said. "Please, join me." "I was the little turtle you saved yesterday. Thank you." My father and I want to welcome you to the land of everlasting youth, where no sorrow ever visits. We would like you to stay here with us for a while. Would you like to? Hiroshima said, there is nothing I would like more. I want to stay here with you forever. Well, let's get married then, she said. And the sea god nodded his consent. And the wedding festivities began. Hiroshima and his bride traveled all throughout the Dragon Palace, looking at one beautiful thing after another, until finally they arrived at the Garden of the Four Seasons. And there they marveled at the beautiful, soft spring, followed by the warmth of the summer, the beauty of autumn, and the harshness of winter. And then it was spring again. How quickly a year can pass by in the land of everlasting youth. Hiroshima and his bride were very happy. But after a while, Hiroshima began to miss his family and friends. He told the princess, I just want to go and visit them for a while. Oh, please don't go, she said. I'm afraid you'll never come back. Of course I will. Here, she said, take this red lacquered box and keep it with you always. But Hiroshima, do not open it. If you can do this, you can return to me. And Hiroshima promised. And they left one another sorrowfully. Once again, Hiroshima got under the back of the giant sea turtle, and together they made their way up to the surface. But the giant sea turtle was caught in the rising tide, and the torrential current began to carry them here and there. They were tossed back and forth. Only with the greatest effort did the giant sea turtle find his way back into a current that would take them to Hiroshima's village. As they climbed closer and closer to the surface, the water became murky, and the sea turtle saw that there were garbage bags and garbage thrown into the water. Caught in one of the bags. He freed himself, and then they were at Hiroshima's village. But Hiroshima did not recognize his village. All of the buildings looked different. All the streets were different. None of the people looked familiar to him. He saw an old man and asked him, "Is this the village of Urashima the fisherman?" "Urashima," said the old man. "Well, I used to hear a story from my grandfather, who heard it from his grandfather, who had heard it from his grandfather, that there was a fisherman named Urashima, and he went out into a boat one day, but never returned." "Oh, but that would have been about 300 years ago." 300 years ago? He had been in the land under the sea for only a few days. He looked at the red box the princess had given him, and confused, he decided to open it. Out came 3 puffs of smoke. Urashima's hair turned gray, and he grew a long beard. And then Urashima's body began to change. His neck elongated, his arms grew longer, his nose turned into a beak, and red feathers sprouted all over him. Urashima had turned into a crane and flew off toward the sun.